Welcome to the Misophonia podcast. This is season 5, episode 15. My name is Adil Ahmad, and I have Misophonia. Another episode coming in a few days late, but I'm excited to bring this episode with Ben, a screenwriter in Los Angeles. Ben actually reached out to me, as you'll hear, earlier last year, just to chat about Misophonia off the record. And when I started recording this season last September, we grabbed some time for the podcast to chat again for all of you to hear. We talk about his unusually normal childhood, nothing particularly traumatic of note. When this all started, spreading the word about misophonia and how he writes misophonia into everything he works on. We talk about having other conditions like ADD and anxiety, and you'll hear his earplug recommendation and a lot more. So many great people I've interviewed in LA, and I can't wait to head back out there to visit one day. If you can support the show, the easiest way is to actually just leave a quick rating or review wherever you listen to the show. There's also now a Patreon page at patreon.com/misophoniapodcast where you can support financially to help keep the show up, help pay for accurate transcripts, and to get some swag I'm giving away. And of course, you can follow along on Instagram at Misophonia Podcast, also on Facebook, Twitter, and sometimes TikTok. All right, now here's my conversation with Ben.
Let's do it. All right. Well, with that, Ben, welcome to the podcast, and it's good to speak to you again. We spoke briefly earlier this year.
Yeah, it feels like so long ago, and 2021 and 2020 have blended together, and I'm positive we spoke this year though. So
yeah, it was this year. I have no idea. Right. I don't even know if it was pre-vax, post-vax, or what was going on, and
it was somewhere in there. But
what season it was? But yeah. So I guess, well, for the audience, do you want to kind of talk a little bit about where you are and what you do?
Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles currently. I'm a screenwriter, and I have misophonia. And I try to incorporate some sort of recognition of misophonia into all my scripts, whether it's just, a side character having it, or, just trying to shed light on misophonia. And I every script I've written, I've incorporated it somewhere, whether it was a main point of the story or just a character's trait. I've just always felt I've wanted to allow characters to have that because it's never really been shown before. So I make it a point to just work it in somehow.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Did you by any chance write the for the show Sex Education?
I did not.
Okay.
Is there a Ben Moody on there?
No. That would be weird. But it just came up in a conversation earlier today that I had in a meeting, in a board meeting for SoQuiet.org, which I'll give a little plug to. But we were talking about there was on Twitter and Instagram, people noticed that one of the episodes in this show, I've never seen it, but apparently it's pretty popular. In passing, there was a reference to some characters said that they had misophonia, and they defined it as like the hatred of people chewing, which is not. It's not quite accurate.
So somebody didn't quite do their research, I guess.
Right. So at SoQuiet, we're thinking about writing to Netflix, to the writers, just to kind of educate a little bit, and maybe it could be written back in later in the series. But
that's great. Yeah,
that's kind of the I'm sure we'll not hear anything because apparently nobody cares about misophonia except you. You're going to change that. But that's kind of, I just said that to kind of say that's kind of the state of it right now. It's if it even gets mentioned, it's usually in passing as a butt of a joke.
And I try not to, obviously it's I don't ever want it to be a joke. It's because it's not. And so,
right.
I don't want it ever to come off that way, but more, like I mentioned, shedding light on something that people just aren't aware of. And it's not, it's definitely not a butt of a joke.
That's unless it's self-deprecating, because we
of course. but yeah, you definitely don't ever want to bring light to something that people will immediately associate as being like a joke almost. And
Right.
yeah, so that's important. But that's actually really, I mean, the fact that they mentioned it, I guess, is something. So uh, I can't give them credit for that, but not doing the research is kind of counters it
Yeah.
out a little bit.
I know that's kind of all. That's kind of our. That's kind of sums up our experience. It's like, okay, if somebody mentioned it, we're like, okay, well, I'm glad they at least mentioned it, but we're not. We can't. We're not really expecting much more. I guess it's kind of it's where our expectations are. They're so
Yeah,
low
that's
that
right.
it's like if you mention it. So have you? Is there anything you've written in yet that's available to see yet, or is it all maybe stuff that's in
Uh,
development or?
Yeah, stuff that's in development, nothing that anybody has seen yet. There are a few projects of mine that we're pushing to shoot in the next, let's see, September, so like the next 4 weeks. That has, of course, a mention of it. So hopefully we'll start getting the ball rolling on
Yeah.
at least shooting these projects and then hopefully getting them out there to people. And um, yeah, it's funny when people read some of my scripts, and uh, you know, there's never like a question. No one ever, of course, ever mentions, what was the misophonia thing? What was that about? It just kind of is like, oh yeah, read the script, good stuff, and there's no questions about it or anything, which is totally fine. I think it's just more of the idea of spreading the word and making people aware.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, so I guess yeah, it's interesting. So people review and they kind of well, I guess if you weave it in really well, or it's pretty minor. Either way, it's not really
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if
noticed.
it is like a bigger part of a character or something, then uh, maybe I would expect them to say something or maybe kind of ask what that is. But it's never been brought up, and most of the people who do read my scripts before they get sent out anywhere are people close to me who are definitely aware of what that I have it, and so. I think they're kind of just like, oh, it's just this little piece of him in there, I guess.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I think you said that your partner is also in the industry as well. It's probably somebody who reviews your scripts. I'm assuming before you send them out.
Yes, and so she actually has high frequency hearing loss. So
Oh, I
she
forgot. Right.
wears, yeah, so she has to wear her hearing aids, and it's kind of like an interesting match where can't stand certain sounds, and if she doesn't have her hearing aids, then she can't hear anything. So
Yeah.
she's like, I don't know what you're going through, but she, of course, understands and is so thoughtful about things, and whenever
She
I'm
has a misophonia adjacent issue. It's all
yes,
in the
exactly,
hearing world.
exactly. That's a great way of putting it. So
Uh,
yeah, she's incredibly helpful and supportive of it, though.
that's great. That's important. That's important to have. What about your like other friends? You said people close to you know about it. Have you talked to like are your friends aware of it, or is it like family members?
My family's definitely aware of it. They know, they actually, if I remember correctly, I think maybe back in like I want to say like 2014 or 13, I was going to school and college, and I remember my mom texting me and saying, "You should Google this word misophonia. I think it's what you have. I think it's what you're going through." And
Yeah.
I hadn't known about it at the time, and my entire life it was always, oh, it's OCD. It's
Right.
just you just have OCD, which it's an easy thing to write off. But after having a word associated to it and an actual, there's actually something behind it, I started, doing the research, and that's it. That is exactly what I'm going through, and I've been going through since I was like 7 years old, and you know, I couldn't believe it. So yeah, that they're aware, and they try to be respectful of it. Um, I tend to have to sometimes wear earplugs when I eat dinner, or if I if I'm watching a movie with them or anything, they used to say like, "Why are you wearing earplugs?" And it's just after just kind of something I have to do.
Yeah.
It's not you guys, and I never want to make it someone else's problem, which I guess I don't know, it can be tough because it's like if to me I feel like this is my problem. It's something I have to deal with, so I don't ever want to make misappointing someone else's problem. So I try to adapt to my best ability.
Right.
And yeah, that they're very aware and very respectful of it. And then my friends who I'm around, they just kind of they'll ask things like, why are you wearing earplugs to a movie theater? Like it's
Yeah.
loud. I'm like, I know, you're right. It's everything is loud in there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, I can still hear the movie. Don't worry, guys. I caught everything. But yeah, my friends and close friends and family, I think, are very in tune with it.
Yeah. Gotcha. And then, so yeah, obviously you had it your whole life if your mom was bringing it up. Was there like was there a change at that point? Like, were you able to take more of these coping methods uh, versus before? It sounds like you did
I,
have your plugs on
I,
like before, right?
yeah, I always had some sort of noise canceling headphones too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I used to, my first year of college, I was living in a dorm with someone, and they tended to be quite a loud snorer. So I
Mm-hmm.
often slept with the noise canceling headphones on. And next year, I was like, I have to live alone. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
You're a good friend. It's not you. I just live alone. I can't do this every night. So
Yeah.
yeah. I've pretty much been the earplugs came in around college time, and I kind of wished I had them earlier. But they've I don't know if I don't know if you use them at all or anything, but they have such amazing earplugs now where you can't even see you're wearing them. So
Yeah.
the ones that used to be these bright neon, which they still make them, but the big thick neon ones that stick out of your ear. If you were ever a little, you wanted to, you were just a little subconscious about it. You could always, you know, put in the little ones and no one will know. And I think that's
Right.
really cool that they're doing that, and
Right.
that they exist now. So yeah, it's earplugs are definitely my best friend.
Yeah. And yeah. And I guess, yeah. So before college, you're at home. What was it like at home? Was there basically a lot of triggers, a lot of being alone, a lot of
Yeah,
anger, or
yeah, a lot of I still do, and this is the gum chewing is definitely the first one that ever
mm.
started. That was like around 6, 7 years old.
Oh wow,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I was really young, and I remember always having to ask my parents to just spit it out. And when you're younger, you tell them to do that, and then I remember, they obviously didn't know. Of course, they thought it was OCD. I thought it was OCD because they said that. So they would spit it out, and then or they would pretend to spit it out and just hide it from me. And I'm like, I can hear it. That's the problem. It's that I can hear it. That's the only reason don't want you to be chewing is because I can hear it. So they would try to hide it, or
oh
they
yeah,
would they would we would be at a mall, and I would go off with my mom, and my dad would be chewing it, and then he'd come back knowing that it would drive me crazy. And I'm like, why did you just spit it out right before you came up to us?
oh yeah, yeah.
That sort of thing. I don't know what do you remember? Do you recall what your first trigger was? What sound really uh came about first for you?
I don't know if it was. I don't know. I don't know. Remember exactly what it was. I think definitely mouth sounds from my parents would be it.
Yeah,
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 the whole mouth, throat, nose kind of sounds. And then I don't remember it in school being a huge problem. Um, Maybe in college a little bit, but I don't remember any big things. But yeah, it's for me it was the kind of the typical at home mouth mouth, throat, nose kind of sounds. I think isn't there
yeah.
like an ear, nose, and throat? That would be the worst for me, worst job for me. But
The
yeah,
ENT, yeah, worst
yeah,
job.
that whole area was kind of my thing. Chips, things like chips. never really a huge deal, but yeah,
Yeah,
gum. Well, gum. I don't remember it being a huge problem unless like somebody um chewed in the what I call the classical annoying way, where like the normal people also find it a little bit annoying. But
yeah.
but you know
It's like
there are
chomping.
yeah. So, but I mean the misophonia of the sensitivity of that is like anything. I've there's definitely a lot of people who are extra sensitive to that. But for me, it's
Yeah,
mainly like natural mouth sounds without you know without anything else other than food. So
yeah, yeah.
oh,
That's
also
right.
like drinking and sipping and the liquids going down throats and things like that. So
Is that something that is still triggering to you now, or
oh
have you
yeah,
found? Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I've
definitely
heard
those things.
stories of people who have been able to overcome some of these triggers that started early, and then new ones formed over them. So I
Mm.
could say that that has never happened to me, and that I still everything that bothered me back then is still pretty relevant now.
Yeah, I have not heard of that recovering and then new ones forming on other ones without bringing back the other ones. It's always seems like a snowball.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember really young flip flops, like people wearing flip
mm,
flops that would just smack back of their heel
right.
would drive me crazy. And now, I mean, it doesn't really bother me as much anymore. I've kind of learned to just listen to the rest of the world and not focus on it. So I guess maybe in that sense, it's changed a bit, but it's still
I
kind
would
of there.
hope.
I'm not
I
gonna
would hope.
lie.
Yeah, I would hope it when because you're in LA. I think everyone pretty much has like five
They
flip
live in
flops.
flip
Yeah,
flops. Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
Um, yeah. So that's kind of what it was for me. And then like a lot of people, yeah, got more and more. And then for some people it plateaus. I don't know about you. Like as you got older, um, did the triggers just start multiplying and multiplying?
uh, yeah, I kind of. Yeah, I think some of the ones that were triggering younger have honestly just they've gotten worse. They've been exaggerated a little bit,
Yeah.
and like I have trouble with breathing. Breathing has
Mm-hmm.
that was something that started along with the gum chewing really young, and I'm kind of like ears ENT with me too, ears, nose, throat, uh, and yeah, the breathing, which is it's just it's tough because you can't ever tell somebody to stop breathing. That's not that's just you can't do that. And
Yeah, it's still hard to phrase.
yeah, and
You're a
it's
writer. Maybe you can phrase it in a way that it sounds like, oh, okay,
maybe
I'll stop breathing.
yeah, maybe if you could just stop using the air from your nose, uh, it'd be better for me. So, yeah, it's just that has definitely been something that's gotten a little bit maybe worse over time. But I try to just I think we kind of talked about this before, but I amongst my roommates and I and my partner, we try to watch a movie every night, and we all huddle around. And even at home, whether I'm at home or in the movie theater, I still just put my earplugs in just to you know cancel out all the noise around me. All the everybody's got to breathe. People are usually eating food, so yeah, I just put it in, and it solves everyone's problem. I don't have to
Yeah,
say anything. I don't have to hear it. Everybody wins, and
yeah.
I still get to watch a great movie.
And actually,
So
with your Apple headphones, are you able to like get the sound directly into your headphones? And also, yeah, I don't know if you have an Apple TV, but if you do, maybe you can get a
yes,
direct connection while everybody else
yeah,
listens as well. Or
I can only do one channel,
okay,
unfortunately. So it's like
okay,
one or the other. But yeah, I do. They're pretty much always on my head at this point. It's like,
yeah,
just going about the house or whatever. I'm always wearing them. So they've also been lifesavers. As I put it, I figured it was an investment. Uh, if I buy these, this is gonna, this helps with. I always listen to music when I write, so
yeah.
it tunes everything out. It's
Oh,
just a
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, these. I mean, I've got the Sony ones. None of these are cheap, but I mean, for us, I mean, this is like crucial.
like
This is like water almost.
it's
So
like a necessity. It's
yeah,
it should come with having misophonia. You should be able to you get free
it should be covered.
noise canceling. Yeah.
Yeah, should be
Sure.
covered by from your health insurance or your just misophonia insurance. Actually, that might be interesting. Misophonia insurance company. But anyway, maybe I'll put that in the misophonia app.
Write that
I'll
one
put that in
down.
misophonia. Um, interesting. So going, okay, yeah, maybe rewind again around when
Yeah.
you were on 6 or 7. Like, was there anything? Did anything change at home? I'm just curious. Like, what was the home life like? Did it just kind of suddenly appear, or was it some kind of, I don't know, tension? Did you guys move? Or I'm most curious these days of asking like what was going on around your home, if anything unusual.
I don't. Nothing. Nothing really changed,
Hmm.
other than a lot of tantrums from me
Hmm.
when it'd be like, why do I have, you're young, and so people would ask, well, why do I have to spit out this gum? And
Right.
it was tough as a child. One, you just don't even know how to express yourself, but two, you don't even know why
Right.
you want them to spit out the gum, other than it bothers me, and that's all I could ever say. So there was at times a lot of blowback when I was younger, but I found as I got older, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, this is never going to stop, so I'll just throw it out for you. And
Right. But there wasn't anything like some trauma from, I don't know, divorce or moving across country or anything that before that kind of preceded maybe your
no,
first
no, no.
triggers. Yeah, yeah.
Thankfully, no. That was something that, didn't have too much effect
Right.
of anyone else's life
Yeah.
except myself. So
Yeah. No, that's interesting because we hear about a lot of trauma at an early age. So it's just interesting to hear that that's not necessarily the case. That this could be completely independent of other things
yeah,
going on.
yeah, yeah. Um, and I find myself now, if I get in a situation where it's a little bit compromising, and I can't, uh, I can't, you can't just pull out earplugs or whatever. I find it's easier to just kind of walk it off and just kind of walk away,
Yeah.
if that's possible. And it's basically my whole life has just been like, okay, how can I solve this issue in every situation I'm put in?
Yeah. So you got the big headphones, what are and walking off, and you're in LA, so you can do that like year round. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
awesome.
just yeah.
And which sometimes is faster to get to point A from point B from point A, but
Yeah. Where
with the
where are you
traffic.
at now?
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay, and I think that's where you were when I spoke to you
Yeah,
last
yeah,
time.
yeah.
And
So it's nice here too. We actually have apparently a really really good park system. So there's actually a lot of green space. Just in the winter, obviously, it's a bit tougher to walk around. But that's why I got a house with 3 floors and a basement, so I can always
oh,
be,
that's
I always have a floor. Yeah, I can always be on a
a
different
safe
floor.
floor. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
You had mentioned you had spent a lot of time in San Francisco, right?
yeah, yeah, right,
And I
yeah, right.
think last time we spoke, you had mentioned maybe going back at some point.
No, I think maybe mentally wanting to go back to kind
Yeah, I
of
guess that's what. Yeah.
the kind of like the work environment. So I actually since we last talked, I quit my the job I was at there. I was working for a giant Fortune 50 company, and I got there through an acquisition. They had acquired a small San Francisco startup I was working for. So I think what I was probably referring to is like I like the energy of a small startup, small company like the ones that I was at in San Francisco. Now, what I don't
Right.
like is they often come with open office plans, but it seems to be hard to run away from these days.
Yeah.
But
That's
because of COVID, now remote work is so much more normalized that it's I can now work. I have even more opportunities to work remotely. So
Yeah,
it's
and that's kind of been the blessing of so far, is the
yeah,
the available work for from home and everything. And
It's not just work from home. There's there's like Twin Cities Startup Week, which is like it's just a week long. A festival is too generous of a term, but there's like events and talks and stuff all week, and people are going back in person, but then they also have a live stream. So live streaming is
that's cool.
totally normalized. So now, if you want to do career stuff or just special extra curricular interest stuff, it's just so much easier now to participate in anything in the world.
That was fantastic.
And from a misophonic point of view, it's like you're not missing out as much. It's just a different experience a little bit, but so I'm hoping this all is good for folks like us.
I think it will be. I hope.
Financially, career-wise, and all that. So so I guess and your interest in writing, did that kind of come up maybe as a way to kind of like try to write down or process what you were feeling, or is it just kind of like something you're interested in?
Maybe so a little backstory is kind of funny. My mother was actually my English teacher for my junior and senior year of high school, because
so she forced you to be a writer. Okay.
Well, the funny thing is, I had no choice. She was teaching the only class that I wanted to take, so I had to. But I actually I hated reading. I hated writing so much, and I hated it all through high school. And it honestly didn't come until maybe sophomore year of college, and I don't know what it was. Something just clicked, and I was like, "Oh, it's actually really nice to be able to have a voice, and you can actually put your voice into your writing, and it doesn't have to be so bland and black and white." And so I kind of figured that out on my own, and just started writing. I had to for school because I was in film school, but we had to write, short scripts and everything. And I think from there I started to realize, oh, okay, cool. This is what I love. I love doing this.
Yeah.
This is a great way to be able to speak about whatever it is I want to speak. There's no rules. So I kind of took that platform and rolled with it. But that honestly came kind of late in the whole thing, because at first I honestly pictured wanting to do acting, and had tried it and had done a few things and realized how much I hated it. And I think my partner, she's an actress, and I think watching her, what she does and what she goes through and how much work she puts into something like that, I could look at it from the sidelines and say, I can't do that. I cannot do that.
Yeah.
So there's so many people who want to be actors in the world, and I think I'm going to let them battle it out, and I'll stick to what I know, because it's a vicious business, and it takes a lot of work, and I prefer the world of writing, where you don't have to even communicate with anyone. You can just do it on yourself.
Yeah, right. That's one part of the entertainment business that's so behind the scenes that you can work remotely and really literally have to interact with anyone.
It's like one of the very few jobs that you can do yourself, work from home, work at your own pace to some degree, and not have to worry about other people. So it's for someone who has misophonia, it's a dream.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Interesting. Okay. And so tail end of COVID now, like, are you going out more around LA and stuff, or have you kind of like stuck around more at home and working from there?
I have not really gone out much. I've gone out for a birthday here and there, and things like that, but I still kind of am reluctant. I still feel like it's not quite safe. I mean, it's rough everywhere right now, and so you kind of pick and choose where and when you're going to do the things you're going to do. I'm actually going to like the first show I've been to since 2019 on
Yeah.
Saturday. I'm going to the first concert, so it's outdoors, so I feel a little safer
Right.
about that. And they require like the vaccination proof at the door,
Mm-hmm.
so I feel pretty good about all that. But I'm excited, nervous but excited. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I don't. What about you? Have you been able to experience? I mean, I know Minnesota's beautiful outside. I don't know how you guys are right now, but we're like 100 degrees today, so
Oh
it's
shit!
hard to.
No,
Yeah.
we're at a high of, I think we're hitting a high of 70, but it's quickly going down. Like you go out in the morning and it's like mid 40s, so Fahrenheit.
Oh wow, wow, that's beautiful because I
It's a
haven't felt
nice,
that in.
yeah, yeah. No, it's a nice. That's kind of the range you want. You just throw a sweater on a little bit, maybe a little bit in the morning, and then you can keep it on later or not. So, but yeah, I've been I haven't really gone out that much. I go to I'm doing some contract work somewhere, so I kind of go in there. I don't know everybody there. It's also very small. They're mostly doing remote work, so I might go in there like once or twice a week.
Uh,
They have a really great coffee bar downstairs, so I don't have to go to another coffee bar to kind of get anything. And then
uh-huh.
I take piano lessons once a week, so I go there. So those are the only two places I
Oh,
go. And
that's great.
I'll go to a grocery store or whatever, but so I'll get
Yeah,
necessities masked
yeah,
up. These two other places, I'm comfortable not wearing a mask because I know my teacher and I know my boss or whatever. So
yeah, yeah. You kind of just have to slowly
and I'm
integrate new
vaxxed, so
people
yeah.
in. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and
So
then
that's the
kind of.
interesting thing. It's the slowly reintegrating. I'm taking this time to, and I don't know if others are doing it, to not just go back to the normal, um, you know, integrate everybody back in. I'm kind of recalibrating. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah.
what do I really want to be doing? What do I want to spend my time on? Who do I want to spend my time with? And I'm finding that, uh, you know, that that circle is not as big as I thought. At least the inner circle is not as big as I thought, and everyone else can kind of stay away until I need them.
And I think sadly that is the truth with a lot of people right now.
Yeah,
I think that's the circles have slowly dwindled through the pandemic, and
which
it's
I
just
think is
kind of.
good if you can kind of like you can kind of now reevaluate like who's most important to you or what's most important to do. Um,
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, for sure.
so
And it's a it's a bit of a drag, but uh, it's that's where we at, and you got to
right,
adapt. So
right,
yeah.
right, right. So I guess have you I forget if we did, have you gone to see like therapists or anything about misophonia in particular or any other comorbid stuff? I don't
I
know if you have any, but
Yeah, in high school, I saw a therapist uh, my junior and senior year, and we touched on misophonia. It was also at the time I had a lot of anxiety, which I think for a lot of people, including myself, it was triggered by a lot of sounds for me.
yeah.
And being in school, there were times when the the teacher would chew gum, or the students would chew gum, and there's nothing you can do about that. And I actually just listened to one of the last episodes about one of the professors who had a syllabus about no gum allowed, and I thought that's amazing. I wish I
Yeah.
wish I could have had that guy as my professor. But um, yeah, there were they were trying to help with anxiety and a little bit of ADD, and I think to some degree it helped with some aspects of misophonia, but they obviously at that time didn't know what to call that either or what it was.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, there wasn't much help on that. I don't know. Have you ever spoken to anyone about it?
No, not me personally. But it's just come up where it's usually if somebody has some other condition which is more quote unquote popular,
Hmm.
they'll you know they might bring up misophonia, but it's such a it can go anywhere at that point. It's like nobody. It's kind of random if the person, the therapist or psychiatrist you're talking to knows about misophonia. Um, so, and then if they either dismiss it or they connect it to something else,
Yeah, yeah,
it's very rare that somebody's like, "Oh, you have misophonia. Here, let's work on it." I mean, obviously, unless somebody's advertising it, and it's usually like, someone who's a psychologist who does CBT or anything. That seems to be the most promising kind of therapy these days for it.
yeah.
But
I've seen that when researching it a bit.
mhm.
Um, I've seen that there's recently popped up a lot of studies asking for participants on things for
Yep.
uh, but yeah, potential medications, and I don't know. I don't know. How do you feel about something like that?
Yeah, medication. I don't know if there's a. I mean, there's definitely no cure or
Yeah,
like
of course. And that's what's kind of
proven kind of.
scary, which is
Yeah.
they don't know they don't understand it 100% yet, and they're already, you know, working towards some sort of medication.
Yeah, I haven't heard about the that'd be interesting. Maybe we can find a link to that. I know there's a lot of studies just kind of put on by therapists and psychologists, like at the Baylor School of Medicine, and a lot in the UK. There's a lot of research in the UK, and obviously
Yes,
like
yes, yeah,
Amsterdam and Duke here in the United States. Dr. Zach Rosenthal's group. But yeah, the most of what I've seen has been. Yeah, I'm more on the psychology side. I
yeah.
haven't.
There was one.
Um,
I wonder if I still have the link. I
yeah, I'd like to see that because I had not heard of any company claiming that they're working on medication for it.
Yeah, I'll have to dig it up. I had an email from them about wanting to. It was a quite a process to. It's like applying for a university.
Mm,
It was a quite a process to get in, and they wanted a lot. And at the time, I just said, I thought it was going to be kind of an easy sign up. Like, yes,
right, right. Here,
I have,
give me your
yeah.
address and we'll mail you.
But it was a lot, so I remember thinking, oh, I just don't really have time for this right now. But yeah, maybe if I can dig that up, I'll send that over to you.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Misophonia I don't know. This will be air a little bit later. The Misophonia convention is actually in a couple weeks, or a few weeks. So there might be some. I don't know. We'll see what the latest research is. There's probably nothing that I
Yeah.
haven't already heard. Um, but yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
So how is your family around you? How do they react to, when you have, are they receptive of it, or
oh
when you're
yeah, I
triggered
mean,
by a certain,
they know about it. I don't like go and react crazily. Obviously,
yeah,
it's hard to not reflexively do the glare once in a while or whatever. But I kind of know. I mean, it's usually like if it's around eating time, I'll put on some music, or I will, tell my brain in advance that it's eating time, but it only lasts for about 20, 30 minutes or so. So,
yeah,
if we could just think about, engage in the present, but then just know that there is a future that's just 20 minutes away. And then also, I might, well, we have another kid now, so there's a bunch of stuff to take care of. So it's not unusual to kind of just try to eat a little bit quicker, then get up from the table, maybe help with the dishes and things like that. So,
right,
um, yeah. And then other than that, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's actually generally pretty quiet, but like I said, like we have enough space that I can move somewhere for a little bit to if I'm hearing something that I don't want. But I don't. That doesn't happen that much anymore.
Do you have
And
anyone in your circle or family that has misophonia as well?
no,
No.
definitely. No, not that I know of. And I mean, they would tell me if they obviously because most people know. I mean, I haven't told like my. I mean, yeah, I mean, I haven't told like never told my parents. That's a whole other like I don't even know how I'd broach the subject kind of things.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Because that was like a kind of a big thing growing up, and so it's like at this point, then you get all that guilt and shame and stuff inside you. Um, so yeah, probably maybe at some point. Um,
Did
Maybe
when
if
you
I
were
write a big
younger?
Broadway musical and it makes a ton of
You
money,
don't feel.
I'll give them
Yeah.
tickets.
You're like, this is my way of telling
That's
you.
kind of a secret plan. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
When you were younger, did they kind of have like a similar reaction as my parents, or was it
oh
something?
no, no, it was like, yeah, I know I would get, yeah, I would get the questions like, why are you looking that way? Why you look, why are you not saying anything? Or, and yeah, I remember getting, getting dropped off for college, and then just I guess I must have been triggered or whatever, and just kind of like kind of shutting down, kind of what we sometimes do if we can't leave a situation, just kind of
Yeah,
mentally check out, and then getting a call later asking like why was I doing that, and it really upset one of my other parents or something like that. So fun stuff like that.
it's
Um,
the you
Fun
mentioned
stuff
that.
that I'll
Yeah,
talk about 25 laters on a podcast. So,
yeah.
but that's kind of the extent of it. So,
Yeah, you mentioned, yeah, like shutting down in a situation that you can't get out of. And I've had instances where people will say, like, "Oh, I thought you hated me, or I thought you were mad." Like,
yeah, that's kind of
no,
stuff. Right,
like, yeah, it's like
right,
it's such, yeah, it hurts because you're like, no, absolutely nothing to do with you, and even the person who's asking, I thought you're saying, I thought you were mad. It's sometimes it wasn't even their sound or anything that they were doing. It was something else or someone else, and you're like, it
right.
was nobody. It was nobody's fault. And I never like to blame anyone for things that they can't control. They're just living their life, and I hate to put it on them in any way. So yeah, then I shut down, and it makes me look like I'm
Yeah.
mad at them. It's
And then the crazy thing is, like, we then if somebody notices, sometimes they want to make it a big conversation, but the last thing we want to do is like shine a spotlight on it, and then that just kind of like makes us look even more like we're kind of evading, and it just kind of
yeah.
becomes a downward spiral.
Yeah. So it's very internalized for myself, and
Yeah.
it's always been that way. I try to, but the only people I ever felt comfortable with were my parents, where I could just say, "Could you please spit out that gum?" It's like, the only people in life I've ever felt comfortable with telling them to help me with the sound if they could stop doing it. Even my there's been times where I've said, "You're breathing so loud. Is there anything you could do to not do that?"
Can you
And
pause from your air? Can you take a pause from air circulation just for a
yeah,
few
just
minutes?
for 1 minute, just give me one deep breath, because that won't do anything for
Right,
me. And I think that might solve everybody's problems for a few minutes. So,
right, right.
but
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I was gonna ask something about related to that, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. Well, I guess what, like, to this, like, what do your parents say now that it's been a few years since um they've known about that it has a name and all that stuff? Like when Thanksgiving and holidays when they're coming up, like, is it pretty accommodative? Or is it just kind of like they just kind of just understand if you have to like throw a glare or whatever?
yeah, they're pretty good about it. Yeah, they don't. They'll, uh, I got sometimes my father will say, you know, jokingly, like, "Oh, that's still bothering you," and but then he'll throw out the gum, or he'll stop snoring, and
Right.
I go, "Yeah, it's never gonna change." I'm so I always have to say, it's gonna be this way forever, unfortunately. I think
Yeah.
so. It's just something I got to live with. But yeah, they're all very accommodating, and if I say a certain sound bothers me or anything, they'll take the time to stop, figure out a solution for it, or whatever it might be. But I think, mm, it kind of did mean a lot at the time. My mother finding the term, and what it meant, and I think that gave her a better understanding too. So she had a little bit of, she could relate a little bit more at that point. and it was helpful. Just just associating a word to something you dealt with your entire life, kind of changes the whole dynamic. I think it helps that they finally understand, like, oh, this is not obsessive compulsive disorder, and this is not ADD. This is something completely different that
Right.
a lot of people deal with, and there's not a lot known about it. So, yeah, it did mean a lot when my mom. I think she texted me it. I remember being in my dorm room, late in bed, and getting a text about it, and immediately jumping into research about it. So
The fateful text while you're just kind of lying around the dorm.
Yeah.
Did your
Yeah.
so now you all the other like your comorbid stuff like the anxieties is that pretty much subsided and it's all that's left is kind of the misophonia or
Unfortunately, no. Still
no?
deal
Okay.
with a lot of it. Yeah,
Right.
I have pretty terrible ADD that I take medication for, and I actually find that there are instances sometimes where I think taking the ADD medication, actually makes some of the sounds worse and kind of amplifies them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, what do I want to deal with? Do I want to try to suppress the ADD, or do I want to try to suppress the misophonia? So obviously, the only answer is just headphones will get rid of all
Right.
those problems. But yeah, I do find that the medication I'm on, and I've tried several different ones, and they all kind of seem to have the same problem. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, and they're supposed to help a little bit with anxiety as well, and it does for sure. But there are those instances where, yeah, some sounds will just be extremely triggering when I'm on my medication, and yeah, it can be tough. It can be tough on those days where for some reason everything's amplified. But yeah, that's it's a whole it's the whole thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. Have you seen any movies recently that have been like I cannot sit here anymore. Sound designers sometimes are
No,
can get a little carried away.
I've seen people point out a lot of like certain commercials will be really triggering, and people put out warnings like, if you see this, Allstate I don't know why I'm calling out
Right.
Allstate, but
Right. Allstate sucks.
yeah, Allstate sucks, man. But if you see this Allstate commercial, just mute it immediately because there's a sound in there, and I think that's really helpful. I think it's really cool that people do that. I kind of sneak around the Misophonia subreddit sometimes and just kind of see what people are saying and try to get advice on there. I think it's always just so helpful to be around people who share the same experiences as you and offer solutions that you've just never thought of. And also, these people test every earplug on the market, so it's always great to have that done for you instead of having to buy them all yourself.
Right. Yeah. I need to maybe quote unquote borrow some of that information for the Misophonia app, where I'm trying to get like lists of coping tips and like businesses run by misophones and maybe some reviews.
Oh yeah.
I'll probably just comb through the Reddit and find all that stuff. So
well, I will give my seal of approval. I don't know if they're on there, but the Ring earplugs, not to be confused with the doorbells and door cameras. It's just they look like a little ring. They're so small and they fit in your ear perfectly, and they come with a great case. I think they're about $20, and at the time I thought, ooh, 2 earplugs for $20 is rough, but I saw everybody else say they're the best, and I stayed by it.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, I would. I really highly recommend those. They're kind of shaped like a noise canceling headphone, like an in-ear one. So they've got that nice plug in there, and I use them every day. So that's my plug right now.
So it's not just one of those styrofoam thingies. It's shaped like an AirPod
it's actually,
Pro kind of thing.
Yeah, like an AirPod Pro. Exactly. It's shaped like that. It's really soft in the ear, and it doesn't protrude at all. So But you can't even see them. My hair's a little bit longer right now, so it's over my ear, so you really can't tell that they're in. But I know people get a little subconscious about that, and I was definitely
They'll just blend in behind my ear hair or something.
Yeah, so yeah, that's my plug. Definitely check out the
I'll try
Ring
that out.
earplugs. Yeah, I love them. They come with a bunch. Of, don't want just plain black. They have like gold ones too. So
okay.
Yeah. That's
nice. Yeah, just to, I don't know. I guess just to kind of wrap up. Like, do you have anything else you want to kind of share with folks who are listening in? I'm sure when your stuff goes on TV, I'll have links to them and I'll announce them. But
yeah, for sure. I mean, to everyone listening, you're not alone. And I guess if anybody wants to, I'll plug my website. It's just Ben. It's just my name, Ben Moody, and then there's an S. That's benmoodies.com. But that's about it for me.
Cool. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Ben, and yeah, we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This has been amazing. It's always such a treat to be able to speak with someone who has misophonia as well. So thank you so much, man.
Thanks again, Ben. I can't wait to see your work as it comes out, and we'll definitely promote it here on the show. If you liked this episode, don't forget to leave a quick review, or just hit the 5 stars wherever you listen to this podcast. You can hit me up by email at hello@misophoniapodcast.com or go to the website, misophoniapodcast.com. It's even easier just to send a message on Instagram at misophoniapodcast, where you can follow, also on Facebook and Twitter at Misophonia Show. Support the show by visiting Patreon at patreon.com/misophoniapodcast. Theme music, as always, is by Moby, and until next week, wishing you peace and quiet.